Isn't it time to get away, to jump in, to tee up, to get out and explore, to stay in and indulge, to feel the inspiration of wide open spaces? Whenever you're ready for a getaway, Palm Desert is where you'll be able to do it all, safely. Find your happy pace in Palm Desert.
Hello and welcome to Palm Desert Food and Wine Virtual Experience, brought to us by the City of Palm Desert. We're looking forward to seeing you all at the in-person Palm Desert Food and Wine in March 2022, specifically March 25th through March 27th, 2022 at the Gardens on El Paseo. I'm Tally Fantini with Palm Springs Life, and we're happy to have you for tonight's virtual demo with Paulette Goto, pastry chef and food aficionado. Paulette can be found on the Cooking Channel's Unique Sweets and as a judge on the Food Network's Sugar Dome, King of Cones, Beat Bobby Flay, Bakers vs. Fakers, and Worst Cooks in America. You can also read more about Paulette in Palm Springs Life online at palmspringslife.com. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and make a beautiful autumn checkerboard cake with Paulette Goto.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. How are you guys?
We're thrilled, and we've got many folks who are going to see you live and in person in March as well with us, and they're eager to learn how to make a checkerboard cake.
Well, I am eager to show them how to make a checkerboard cake. It's a lot easier than a lot of people would think that it is, and these are two of my favorite flavors that I wanted to combine, and then I will personally eat it for you. You can watch me also eat it.
Awesome. So we're going to be getting some questions through the chat. And then I will be asking you as they come up, as people are sort of baking along with you and decorating along with you tonight.
Excellent. All right, cool. I hope everyone has their drink of choice. I have rosé because that's what I need. You do you, but do what you need to do to get through it. All righty. So I have pumpkin cake and spice cake. One of my biggest tips, techniques that I love, that I think makes the cake work better and even taste better, is if you bake it the day before you decorate it. It actually tastes a lot better once it's sat and chilled in the fridge a little bit. And it's also easier to cut and mold and do everything that you want to do to it. So I've got 3 6-inch rounds of pumpkin and spice cake, and then I have these round cutters that I'm going to use. And I'm just going to cut circles in all of the cakes, and then I will cut them, alternate the spice with the pumpkin and the pumpkin with the spice, so it makes a checkerboard cake. You will see exactly what I'm doing with it. I'm going to fill it with a maple cream cheese frosting. These are legitimately my most favorite flavors all put together. As I said in the interview, I do think that pumpkin spice is overused, but I also, with that said, I also love it. It is absolutely delicious. So I didn't put a lot of spices in the pumpkin. I wanted just that pumpkin flavor to shine through. It's all about the spice cake has all spices, and then they just all blend together beautifully. So I've cut those all up like so. I've got my cream cheese frosting that really should be on everything. It's so crazy delicious. All right, so to start with the icing, you just always put some down on your cake board to glue the cake in place. I'll start with some pumpkin. Just put some of that frosting on there so it gets in there. Now, another thing that I do, let me reach for it here, just to put a little bit of glue so they stick together, I pipe just a little bit of this maple cream cheese frosting throughout it. This just makes it stay in place, and it also gives you more of that delicious maple cream cheese frosting because you'll want it, absolutely. Every chance you get, you'll want to taste some of this filling. So then there's the maple, just push that right in there. A little more of this cream cheese filling right in there. And now the pumpkin. So you can do it pretty much however you see fit for your cake. So this is how I started it. So now you just alternate it. So now I'll do the spice big round, but first pipe some frosting so it stays in place. And the trick with these checkerboard cakes, you don't want to put too much filling on it because you really want that checkerboard to be able to shine through and see it. It's really a pretty look. So just enough to adhere the cakes together. So just spread that along. My offset spatula is my life. I mean, I only use one at a time, but I have about 20 of these. I absolutely need these every single day. Linda Brown, my pseudo mom, big shout out to her. She taught me all about cakes. And when she was doing cakes, she actually decorated her cakes with a butter knife, which to this day blows my mind. Now, I'm sure everyone just noticed that that dropped and broke. Number one rule, you're in charge of the cake. This cake is not in charge of you. You can fix anything with frosting, even a broken heart. I've been there, you can do it. All right, so pipe a little more of this cream cheese. And for the cream cheese frosting, you'll see with the recipe, I use maple extract. If you use maple syrup, you just need it takes way too much of it and you're not gonna get the flavor that you want from it.
That was going to be my first question, Paulette, is can you do it with maple syrup? And if you do it with maple syrup, how much maple syrup?
I love maple syrup. It is one of my favorite flavors, but to get the flavor of the maple, you would need to use an obscene amount. Now, usually I am down for using obscene amounts of delicious things, but it would thin the frosting down so much it would not be usable. It would be so thin. So maple extract you can get at any grocery store. I got this at Whole Foods. And sometimes for a little bit, there is a little bit hard to find, but I think as we all know now, you can get pretty much anything on Amazon and get it within 2 hours or the next day. All righty, so we'll pipe a little bit more on for this layer. There we go. So when you're doing cakes, the crumb coat is the filling where you literally are catching the crumbs with your frosting. And that allows it so that when you go through with the final coat, no crumbs will be in it. That's literally why it's called a crumb coat. All right, so I just did spice. So now I'm going to do the pumpkin round on the outside. You just follow the pattern that you're doing to make that checkerboard look once you cut into the cake. And impress all your guests, and then you will be the star of the show because you made that checkerboard cake. All right, now some spice. I'm not a big fan of using too much food coloring in baking. I really like the natural colors to shine through. But if you ever need to or want to, doing this with some food coloring really makes a striking inside once you cut into a cake. One of my most popular cakes is a unicorn that's throwing up a rainbow, and that requires a little bit of some food coloring. But if there's a unicorn throwing up a rainbow, I'm down for using some food coloring. All right, so I'll give you a little look-see here, how it's going. There's the pattern. Let's pipe some more on here. Now, usually in between cake layers, I am pretty generous with the filling. I like equal amounts of frosting to cake. I don't like when there's too much frosting or too much cake. I like just equal amounts. But for, again, as I said earlier, for the checkerboard, you just want enough to glue it together. All right, so we did pumpkin, and now we'll do a spice round. Again, this is breaking on me, but I'm in charge of the cake, so it's all good. There we go. It's all around. You can make this as tall or as small as you want. It really is up to you. I made one so tall, and without it being tiered, I had to use about 6 straws, double height, because the cake was just so tall and it was not going to stand on its own. But again, with a checkerboard cake, when you take it out and it's being cut, it really is a impressive showstopper when you cut into it. And everyone wonders, how did you do such an amazing thing? And you'll just sit back, take a drink of your cocktail and go, well, I'm just a miracle worker. That's how I did it. All right,
That's perfect timing, Paulette, for our Thanksgiving meals and dinners to do a beautiful checker cake like this.
I agree completely. Spice. I'm a very traditionalist when it comes to Thanksgiving. I don't like I'm a purist when it comes to Thanksgiving. I just want the stuffing to have celery and onions and the breadcrumbs and stock. I don't want anything extra in it. I like the pumpkin pie just to be the pumpkin pie. me and my daughter and my ex, we all still get together for Thanksgiving, and we have our assigned jobs for what we need to do for Thanksgiving, what we're going to make. And we really count on it every Thanksgiving. We've been invited to other people's houses for Thanksgiving. Like, nope, absolutely not. We've got a routine. We're doing this. We can't be bothered going to anybody else's house because we know how good our food is. And we're
That's
going to
right.
stick with that. Exactly. All right. So one more layer. And it smells so delicious. The smell of the maple extract really is such a cozy, cozy smell. And in fact, when I was making this, I was squirting the maple extract into it and the top fell off and a bunch went in there. I had to pour some out. I thought, hey, that's just more maple flavor for this cake. And let me tell you, my entire apartment smells like maple right now, but I'm good for that. All right, we'll do the last layer here. In summertime, I love to do this with lemon and blueberry cake with a lemon cream cheese. It's really, really yummy. I prefer the checkerboard to be more of a flavor-based color than, like I said earlier, the food coloring. Just a little more natural, a little more natural hues going into your cake and what you're eating. I mean, I'm no food snob. Twinkie before me right now, I'm going to eat that Twinkie. They're absolutely delicious. But a lot of food coloring kind of freaks me out a little bit, to be honest. All right, so for crumb coating the cake, this is a cake comb like this, and this is my life. I absolutely love it. I have about 12 of these, all with different edges, but this makes it so that your cakes will come out really super sharp and straight. So it really doesn't matter. I kind of actually like when my cake is a little bit messy because I know that I'm going to be able to go over it with my cake comb and straighten it right up. So I crumb coat it like so. Someone watched me do this and said, wow, you do that so fast. If I didn't do it so fast, I've been doing it for 30 years. It'd be a little bit of a weird issue, I think. So I crumb coat it and then I actually put it in the freezer to firm it up. So here's with the offset spatula. Just fill in all the gaps. So because I baked these cakes yesterday, they are more firm than if you had just baked the cake and then let it cool and frost it. That is my biggest tip to everyone out there who making cakes. Definitely let the cakes cool in the fridge. You will not believe the difference in not just texture, but taste. It is a lot like soup. You know, you make soup and it's always better the next day. Cakes are exactly the same thing. All right, so wait, got a couple different spots here. Now, even if your cake looks crooked as you're building it or crumb coating it, that's okay. You're in charge. You're going to fix it. You're going to make it your thing. And any mistake you feel looks maybe flawed, it's just a new technique. You actually wanted it to go that way. That's all you have to do. So you just take the cake comb now, go around your cake, and I just kind of push it up to balance it more. See how this just straightens it out?
Amazing.
Right? I don't know. I mean, I've been doing cakes for 30 years. I don't know how I did cakes before these cakes. Oh, a bench scraper. That's what I did. We all use bench scrapers for flour in the pastry kitchen. Bench scraper is my best friend. But now since these have been made, these are amazing. All right. So now this is the crumb coat. I'm just gonna put it off. All right.
Beautiful.
Get right into the freezer. Whew. This light, so everyone can see, makes me sweat uncomfortably. I don't care for it. Alrighty, so now I'm going to color the frosting for the leaves and wipe my very sweaty face because this is not a good look. Hold on. That and I'm middle-aged. This might be a middle-aged thing, to be honest.
You're looking great, Paulette.
Oh, thank you. Any questions so far?
The maple syrup was a question. We had another question about alternative, if you're not a butter dairy person,
Okay.
there are alternatives there.
There are alternatives and they are amazing. People are using nut butters. So you can make them at home. I think I've seen some on Amazon. So they are vegan and raw food, if that is a concern for you as well. You just soak nuts, pretty much you just soak the nuts overnight, you let them get really soft, and then put them in a food processor. Almost so it's like a nut butter. There are a couple emulsifiers in it, and that is, I've not used them, but that's what I've seen work the best for an alternative for anything not using dairy.
That's awesome. And do you have any recommendations for alternatives to sugar in baking cakes and frosting?
A fruit salad? Sadly, no. I've not found one. I did try to make a sugarless cake. I did not like the results. And I do get asked if I make vegan or dairy free or gluten free. And I'm a big believer that unless my entire kitchen is dairy free, gluten free, all the frees, then it's not pure, because I think there's too much of a chance of cross contamination. So that's not anything that I've really dived into. But yeah, the one sugar-free cake that I tried, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about agave?
You have to be careful with that because the flavor is so strong and pronounced, and I do think that it interferes with other flavors. The one that I have used that I liked the most was coconut sugar, and coconut oil in place of dairy. It's not the same kind of fat structure, so it's looser. But I actually, because I'm such a purist with my cakes and pretty much almost all my food, I just made a coconut cake with it, and it worked out well.
That sounds delicious.
We
have another question about Palm Desert Food and Wine. Do you know what you're making yet for your brunch event that you're doing?
With that said, I know it's the boozy brunch or something.
Yeah, it's boozy brunch and spritz, I think.
They knew who they were asking. Well, sadly, because of COVID, the one I was going to go to last year was canceled. That's and that one, I was going to make a creme brulee cake with a sugar cage. I add rum into my creme brulee. I'm debating about still doing that or something else that will have some alcohol in it.
That sounds pretty amazing.
It is actually really, really cool. When I worked at Le Cirque, I worked with the guy who made all the pastry cream and creme brulee, like all the base, the spine of the pastry kitchen, really. And he taught me all his tricks. Like, as soon as I figured out he worked for Le Cirque for 30 something years, I knew I wanted to work alongside him. Yeah. So I got to learn his tricks for making the best creme brulee, pastry cream, lemon curd, pastry dough, because he'd done it every day for 30 years. Wow. There's definitely good techniques. So I was thinking of that creme brulee cake with rum, because really, if you can't taste the rum, is it creme brulee?
Tell us the truth, Paulette. Does the alcohol really cook off?
Not mine. I put a lot in it. I'm looking for something here. I'm looking for an end result. It does cook off. Like when you flambe something, that's the alcohol cooking off, and you do get the flavor of it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I've made some frosting. This is my orange one. And then I have green, red, since we're doing fall, and yellow. So one of the biggest things I learned into color frosting is to give it dimension. You add a little bit, I'll show you, of each color, and it gives it dimension, and it almost kind of mutes it, but it gives it more earth tone colors. So I'll show you exactly. So I'm just basically taking the frosting and putting a little bit within each color. And you want to just start with a little bit at first. You learn your lesson through mistakes. And I did this once for a cake order, and I was so stressed for time. And I put too much color in one of it, and it just looked like meconium. I just had to start all over. No one wants to eat that, So just whenever you're coloring your frosting, less is always more, because you can always add in. It's way more difficult to take out. All right, so what's this one? Needs orange. Okay, so what I did with each one was I added frosting. So I color each different color on its own. And then I add more to the light there, frosting into all of it. And this just gives it dimension and mutes it and really makes it such like more natural looking colors for anything really, specifically fall. And me being a white girl, I am an official spokesperson for fall. I know all the pumpkin spice, all the tan boots and the hats. All right, so from adding the colors, this is now my orange.
Oh, wow.
Earthy tone, right? And that's another thing I think people get afraid for with decorating is coloring stuff. Again, you are in charge, not the colors. And it's a lot of it experimentation. You know, in the world of cooking, we say you don't know a recipe till you've made it 1,000 times. It's the truth with everything, really, in the world of food. Like I said, like I've done this so much, I know when a cake batter is looking good or when a frosting doesn't need to be mixed anymore, just because from sight. So then here's the green. It just gets more earthy tones. It just makes it color more and it makes it match more. So now I'll do the yellow.
That's a good little tip.
Right? Yeah, when I learned that, it blew my mind. And another thing you can do to give a color even more is take some of the frosting out, just a little bit, and heat it up in the microwave so that it melts, and then add it back into the frosting. Another trick is once you make your frosting colors, you let it in an airtight container, let it sit out, and it's actually going to get darker in color as it sits out. The oxygen gets into it, the colors get darker. So that was the yellow, and it's more of an autumn color now.
Right.
Right. And I have been doing this for 30 years. If you read the article for the Palm Desert Festival, I lived with a family when I was in high school, and they really took me in like I was a blood relative. They really, to this day, they are my family. And Linda, my pseudomom, I call her, she really taught me everything about the world of cake decorating. And she still to this day is such an inspiration for me, and really like taught me to be in charge of myself. So it's kind of like the same thing with cake decorating. You're in charge, no ingredient or anything else is, it's all on you. You got this. All right, so I have my bags pre-filled, and I've got all different leaf tips. I have Wilton, I wrote it down. I have Wilton tip 352, 68, 112, 349, and 118. So you'll see when I pipe it, they're all going to come out as different sizes and different leaves, just cascading down around the cake. Now I'll just fill, this is how you fill a bag. You just want to hold it over your hand. And another important, there's so many small tips and tricks to figure out either on your own or learn from someone like me that make the world of difference when you are decorating a cake. And one of the things I have learned throughout the years is, so you just fold the bag down around your hand like that, and then you fill it. And the trick is you don't want to overfill it. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I've got this whole big bag, I should fill it up. No, not so, negatory good buddy. You want it filled just enough. Let me squeeze it down. So see how I'm holding it? You want it filled so it's just a handful, right? So just like that. You fill it anymore, you're not going to have control over the bag. Then the bag really does control you if you've overfilled it, because you can really feel the difference when it's overfull, when it has just the right amount. I'm going to fill all the bags up, and then we're actually going to fill one with a little bit of all the colors, because as we all know, well, do you guys get fall in Palm Desert? I have no idea. Is it just one season all year?
Yes, no, we do get a little bit of fall, Paulette. I mean, it was actually what, 70 or 80 today. We get a couple weeks where we can wear a sweater or two, which is sweet.
How nice for you. Today
then again, we're dealing with 125-degree summer weather, so it's a trade-off.
So yeah, that's like, it's just the reverse winter. You just stay inside, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So today was one of the first days where New Yorkers were, oh, it's back. We gotta put the jackets on. But with that said, it's so cozy. See the leaves changing and all the Halloween decorations up and all the jackets. And one of the bonuses of, well, one of the many bonuses of living in New York is, you know, we walk around and get around by subway. A lot of times using the subway will get you somewhere faster than a car or anywhere else, So my justification for having an entire closet of nothing but jackets and coats is that for New Yorkers, that's our outfit, is your jacket and whatever else you're wearing. So that justifies my intense jacket collection. I say that with a wee bit of guilt, but I'll get over it. I'll be okay. Right, so I also made some green because in New York City, the leaves tend to stay green a little bit longer than out in the country. And we actually have guides on the news, the weather reports, showing us where the leaves are changing and peak and when to get out there. And it is really magical. Some of the trees really look like they're on fire because they're so brilliantly colored. It really is a pretty thing to see.
I just moved from New York a couple of years ago, Paulette, so you're making me miss it a little bit.
So you know completely what I'm talking about, right? Like getting up to the Catskills, going to pick the apples.
Yeah.
A friend of mine just had a baby, and so it's new, the whole apple picking thing. She's like, I thought that was just for Instagram influencers. I didn't realize it was a whole big day. I'm like, no, we all go do it for real.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So now in this bag, I'm going to put a little bit of all the colors, and this one, we'll just have a little bit of all the colors while I pipe the leaves on for it. So what you'll do is offset. I take an offset. I just basically almost kind of paint the bag.
So Paulette, you've got a YouTube channel also where you are often giving tips and tricks as well.
Yes. So I've got that, and I just started a new series where I call it Food History Fridays, but sometimes I've been so busy that the Food History Friday gets posted on Saturday, but it still gets up there. I am super duper duper obsessed with food history. I love food. I love it. I have an interesting relationship with food. My real mom was a paranoid schizophrenic and a hoarder, and she would hoard food, and we never knew what we were really allowed to eat. So for the longest time, we were obsessed with sweet things because we just never knew when we were going to get it. And when we did, we ate it like prisoners. So I've always had an intense sweet tooth. But when I love something, I'm so intrigued by it. Like, where did this come from? Who thought to make this? Like, I want to know all the details to the food. And earlier this year, I was on a walk with a friend and telling him how ketchup got its name, because who doesn't know that? And he said, you should start a podcast. And I said, absolutely not. Everyone has a podcast. But then I thought, wait a second, I'll start a YouTube channel where I'll make a recipe. So it's not necessarily a how-to, it's more of a, this is how this came to be, and here's a recipe. And then you get the story behind either the ingredient or the recipe for it. The one I just posted was Butterfinger cheesecake with a graham cracker crust. And so it's the history of Butterfinger and graham cracker. And that story involves masturbation. So like, who doesn't want a cheesecake? All right.
Well, we're going to have to check it out.
Yeah, thank you so Polly cooks and eats because I cook and I eat. I do all of the things. I love food, absolutely. I'm not a shy girl. I will totally get into that food. All righty, so then here is my more light. You can see that, my multicolor leaf one. All righty. So now I'll take the cake. I'll show you the color I made for the base of the cake. I didn't want it to be like too, I really try not, if you've seen my Instagram, I try not to be too traditional. I like the juxtaposition of something pretty, but then says something provocative. So I like to kind of surprise people. So I didn't want this to be too predictable, like, oh, it's leaves, it's going to be a brown cake. So the color that I made is a green with a little bit of brown in it. So when you're making your base color, Another tip I have is don't mix it all the way. Just let there still be some streaks of color. And then as you see, as I'm about to frost this, it'll all come together on the cake. So now here's my frozen cake of goodness. Oh, it smells so good. I said I've got a lot of these. Set. So I like to start with the top. And start swirling. And I remember when I had an internship with a cake artist in the city, and I was obsessed with how her assistant could get the edges so sharp. I'll show you what I mean when I get going into this. It literally is just a thing of practice. There's no tip to give exactly to make a tip like these edges here, super, super sharp. But I'm able to do it now, and I get myself excited how good I can do it. Around like this. And this pumpkin cake and spice cake, they're both really, really soft cakes. I think everyone has like their own preference of when they like how they like their cake texture to be. I prefer the cake and the frosting to be in the fridge to set up, but I prefer it to be soft and mushy like my soul. Those are the instructions I give people. Like once you get a cake for me, you should let it sit out to room temp for at least an hour because it's been in the fridge, and let it get nice and soft and mushy. Because for me, it's long been not just flavor, but the mouthfeel of something can be a craving. And for me, I like the cake to just have that really delicious, soft. I feel like if a hug had a flavor, it would be one of my cakes, if I do say so myself. Get this all on. Now, the great thing about this cake comb is I'm going to go over it, and it's going to show me where there's any gaps of where I need to fill in some frosting. So I'll just scrape the bottom of it, any extra off my cake comb, and just start going around. And it's because this has a perfectly straight line, this will show you where you need to fill in any. So now I just go through, I go around the cake now, and just fill in any gaps or holes that I see. And I go over again with the cake comb. And with this stage, you cannot put enough of the frosting on, because you're just going to go over it with that cake comb and take off any excess. And because we've already crumb coated it, you're not going to get any crumbs in this. You're free to just get in there and go for it. And if you're going around on your final coating of frosting like this one, and if you see that you actually have like any cake showing through and you just can't seem to cover it, not a problem. You'll just decorate over it. Everything's fixable with frosting. Just always remember that. So again, this is another step where I think people get a lot of nervous to really lean into the cake with this cake comb. And again, you're in charge. Just go ahead and really press it into that cake. It's going to be okay. You and the cake. Everyone will survive this and have a good time with it. There we go.
Paulette, what if you don't have one of these fancy circle things that the cake is on that you're spinning it around? You just kind of,
you don't have, well, if you don't have a cake turntable, get one. This is one of the more expensive ones. This is about $70, but this is what when I went to school a million years ago at the French Culinary Institute. This is what I learned on. And I feel like my heart just kind of stayed with it. I like how heavy it is. And it also, you can't, I'll show you the base. So it looks like this, but you can't pick it up from here because it comes off.
Oh.
So I like this one because it's nice and heavy. It's Atco. You can get it on Amazon. But there are a million of these out there, and there are some really inexpensive ones. I would suggest if you think you're going to make 3 cakes a year, I would get one of these because it just makes your world so much easier in the world of cake decorating. So now this is taking the excess frosting off on the top, and you just kind of come in like an airplane, like it's descending down, and scrape that. And this is the one that took me a while to get. Again, it's just practice. And I will make a cake, get it all fixed, ready to decorate, and it'll be in the fridge. I'll come and look at it just because I love the nice sharp edges. Now, another tip I actually have to turn my hot water on, one momento. So once I have this, the cake is all frosted and everything. When fondant was out, it was really, really popular. I am a fondant-free zone. I like frosting. I like a forkful of cake and frosting that everyone's gonna want to eat. I haven't met too many people like fondant. Usually you see people peeling it off. In my opinion, if you're going to peel something, it should be a banana or an orange, not a cake. So I tend to go just strictly frosting. Once in a while, I might use fondant decorations if it's just something that I can't pipe, but I prefer to go full frosting all of the time. So one of the tips I have is, it takes a second, New York City living, it takes a second for the hot water to come through. But what I do is I run my cake comb through very, very, very hot water, and then I run it around the cake, and it gives it the most beautiful, seamless look, as if you somehow just got this frosting on by magic. And I do the same with the top with the offset. So let me run this under the hot water. Stay with me, I'm coming back. So now, just start it. You want to do it in one fell swoop. You can't stop. So once you start turning it, you just keep going. And that just gives it this beautiful satiny finished look. So then when you do the top to finish it, I ran it under water, but you don't want anything else on your offset. So I don't even wipe it on my frosting bowl. I wipe it off on a paper towel just to make sure everything gets off of it so that you're not dragging any more frosting onto the top of the cake. So you just go around the whole side like this. Just getting off any excess and giving it that really pretty soft finished look. And then I just run my offset on the bottom to get off any of the excess frosting. And this is what I call my blank canvas. Now it's ready to decorate. All right. Everyone, cheers. Here we go.
Cheers.
I mean, it's me. Everyone knows I'm going to have a drink nearby. I don't have to go to meetings. I'm just very thirsty. All right. So now with decorating something, you want the eye to be caught kind of like in one spot. So I like it to cast. So I start at the top and then I just pipe with one color. I'll start here and pipe like in a diagonal way down. So I will start. You just want to kind of go haphazardly a little bit because we're going to go through with all the other colors as well. And a lot of times when you're decorating a cake, I think a lot of people can get lost in details that no one else is going to see. And in the cake world, we call that cakeitis. Sometimes you got to know when to step away from the cake. So if you think something's not looking up to your standards, or you think it should be prettier, it looks absolutely gorgeous once you step back. A lot of times when I give cake decorating lessons in my apartment, and a lot of clients will get frustrated because I'll pipe a flower and I'm able to do it with such ease. And that's the other thing that I'm really big on is don't get stuck on trying, if you're just starting out, if you're just going to start piping flowers, don't get stuck on trying to make the exact replica of a flower. That takes a lot of practice. So what I encourage is what I call fantasy flowers. If you pipe something and it's round, seems to have some sort of petals on it, it's a flower. Just frosting florals. That's all you have to say about that. A little bit of green. And you know, like if you've seen my Instagram, I tend to write provocative, some say obscene, some say naughty messages on my cakes. And I just couldn't come up with a fall family friendly thing to write on this one. So we're just going to stay with the leaves. It'll be fine. Much to my dear beloved pseudo mom, it kind of kills her. She says, you make these beautiful cakes and then you write these horrific things on it. That's the point. I like the surprise of it. The best is when I get cake orders, I love reading what some people want. I have a cake order coming up for this weekend, and even I went, oh, and usually people will give me a little paragraph of this is why we want you to write this on it. If I don't get that, I actually will call the number provided, because I ask for a phone number when people ask for cakes, to confirm, because I am not trying to be mean to anybody or insult anybody. It all has to be in good fun and within someone's realm of a joke. I'm not here to hurt anyone's, it's cake. No one should be sad over cake. Like that just seems absolutely illegal to me. See that? See how it looks pretty folly. So now I'll do this.
Looking pretty beautiful, Paulette.
Right? Like it's amazing how just piping these things onto the cake really make it all just come together. And this is, I mean, you see what I'm doing. This is not that complicated. This is something you could totally do for your Thanksgiving dinner or birthday and impress everybody. You will be
You're making it look very easy.
I am literally, okay, so another tip is you want your bag to be as tight as possible. And then you literally hold it like this. And this is how I'm piping. You just press a little bit and then pull away. Just give it a little bit more like this, and we'll do some more. So anytime you grab your bag, you immediately, and another, get a plastic scraper, put your bag down on the table and just scrape the bag so that you're scraping it all down like so. And just pipe. So you just make sure that that bag stays nice and tight in your hand so that you have the control over how much is getting squeezed out onto your cake. Go. Then to give a border. And now, oh, another fun fact about me and cake decorating. When I was born, I had what's called grand mal seizures when I was a baby. I laugh because my niece for the longest time thought I said I had grandma seizures. I don't know if that's a medical thing. I had grand mal, and from those seizures, I shake all of the time. And sometimes it gets really hard for me to pipe flowers or write on a cake. And I know that my handwriting is not the best on cakes, but it's because I have uncontrollable shaking and I literally just do my best. But I decided as you can do with cake decorating or anything that like you're making yours and styling is that kind of bad handwriting is my signature. That's what it is. It's just, that's my style. You're going to read my naughty cakes with my shaky handwriting. Mix this up a little bit more. I mean, you can see how easy you are, literally just taking leaf tips and piping them out. I don't know if you guys can hear, but my dog is snoring in the background.
We can't hear it.
Thank goodness. All right, cool. All righty. There. See if I can get that light a little bit better.
Yay.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Right. So, I mean, we have to cut in and see it, right?
I'm a little sad to cut into it.
I'm not. I mean, I'm complimented when people say, no, I don't want to cut into it. That's why I made it. I want you to cut into it and taste how delicious this is. So the fun part. So for the checkerboard cake, whenever you want to cut into it, you want to cut in nice and deep, just so that everyone sees the structure of it and how it looks like a checkerboard. Let's see if I can. Ooh,
Wow.
that.
That's awesome. It's
Isn't that really
amazing.
cool? Now, can I give myself a bigger slice? All righty.
Wow.
Look at that. So
That's incredible.
it really, really is. And I'm totally, oh my God. So legitimately, when I was a little girl, we went and got donuts one day. And I remember to this day, sitting on on the side of the sidewalk, eating this delicious maple donut. Maple bars are a huge thing in Utah. They're delicious. And I remember thinking, this is one of the best things I've ever had in my life. And then fast forward 20, 30 years later, I'm in New York City at a grocery store eating this pumpkin whoopie pie. And I remember tasting it going, it's that donut I had when I was a little girl. And I remember thinking, I wish I never had this because I want it all of the time. And so this checkerboard cake is my ode to me being a little girl, my love of maple bars in Utah, and now being a pastry chef and a cake artist. This is really good.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing that story and this cake with us. We're so impressed. And, I'm thinking maybe I could do a version of this for my mom's birthday coming up. It's going to take some work, Paulette, but I'm going to
No,
give
I have
it a
faith
whirl.
in you, and I want you can text me any questions you've got. I want
Thank you.
pictures. I want a full report of how this goes. If anyone needs any assistance, you can hit me up on my website. I will gladly email you back and we can get through this together, because
That would be amazing.
it should be fun to make it. It should be fun to eat it. There should be no stress.
Well, you've certainly made it a lot of fun to make this cake with you today. And I think we've all picked up some incredible tips. So thank you so much. If you don't mind sending us the size of the pipes, the piping bags that you talked about,
12-inch.
so that we can share them, because we got a couple questions about them.
Okay.
But we really appreciate your time. This is an amazing cake.
I'm so
And we
glad.
can't wait to see you in person at
I
Palm
can't
Desert
wait. It's my
Food and
first time. I'm so excited to come. Everyone
Yay.
raves about Palm Desert Food Festival. They say it's the best one. I'm so excited to be a part of it.
Wine. Awesome. Thanks, Paulette. And
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
everyone for
Cheers.
joining us. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
See you soon.
See you soon.